Salutations and welcome to Insights with Dr. Val-Addo. We've been focusing on the history of Africans in the U.S. and our general focus has been an overview of the 400 years history of Africans in the U.S. And in this particular presentation, we will provide some guides to American political and legal institutions and structures and civil society that influence the history of Africans in the U.S. The study of education informs us that a teacher or instructor or professor does not teach his students everything he wants them to learn and know. He can also introduce them to other self-learning mechanisms outside the classroom or lecture halls for them to know more and to be self-taught. Two of such self-learning mechanisms are reading and research assignments. I intend to encourage these approaches in this presentation as I provide leads or guidelines for us to do that. Now, viewers and the audience who are interested in the history of Africans in the U.S. had to do personal research into how the political and legal institutions and the civil society influence it by some selected legislations and rulings. And I'm going to discuss some 12 or to provide 12 special days for us to consider and to research on. Number one is 1776. It was the year of the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America from Great Britain. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were 7 men and were later given the appellation the Founding Fathers and regarded as such. They were John Adams, 1, 2, Benjamin Franklin, 3, Alexander Hamilton, 4, John Jay, 5, Thomas Jefferson, 6, James Madison, and 7, George Washington. Now, I would like our viewers and our listeners to find out which 3 were slave owners. I will also want our audience and our viewers to find out which 3 were the leading opponents of slavery. And then we will also want our audience and viewers to find out who was neutral, not on any of the 2 sides. How will they influence democracy, slavery, and the initial history of enslaved Africans in America as founders? Now, the second date that I want us to research on is 1787. It was the year for the drafting of the proposed Constitution of the United States. This was 11 years after the Declaration of the Independence of the United States from Britain. The third date is 1790. We'd like our audience and our viewers to find out what happened to citizenship in the United States 3 years after the drafting and promulgation of the Constitution of the United States, and after Africans had been enslaved and lived in America for 171 years. The fourth date is 1795. We'd like our viewers and our audience or listeners to find out what happened to citizenship that year. Number 5 date is March 6, 1857. Find out what the Supreme Court of the United States ruled on that particular date and why. Number 6 is the year 1860. Find out what happened in the U.S. political terrain that year. Number 7, find out what happened in the ensuing years. That is 1861, 1863, 1864, 1865, and specifically December 1865. Number 8 was May 18, 1896. May 18, 1896. Find out what the Supreme Court of the United States ruled on that particular date. Number 9, find out civil rights ideas, events, and speeches that took place between the 1950s and the 1960s. Number 10, May 17, 1954. Find out what the Supreme Court of the United States reversed on that date. Number 11, November 13, 1956. Find out what the Supreme Court of the United States ruled on that particular date. And the last but not the least is 1967. Find out what the Supreme Court of the United States struck down that year. After researching into these dates that I have provided, the viewer or the listener will have an adequate overview of how American political and legal institutions and civil society and their structures influenced the history of Africans in the U.S. So we will continue with the American Church Institution in our next presentation, and we wish that you tune in to listen to Insights with Dr. Val-Addo. Please subscribe to this Insights and hit the notification bell. Give us a thumb up, and please share this presentation and leave us a comment. God bless you.